Compost tea has been something that good gardeners and old-time gardeners and gardeners who pay attention to these things have probably been doing for many, many years and understand what they were doing rather than digging up their whole compost pile or their manure pile and carrying it all over and spreading it on their soil. What they're doing is they're taking the best nutrition out of that pile and they are just putting it on as water. Simpler for them, not so much heavy work. They need a hose end sprayer or they need a watering can or something like that. And then, but compost teas in the last while because of a woman researcher from University of Oregon, Elaine Ingram was her name. She did a serious study of soils, not just to get what scientific value of soils were all about, but why soils are bountiful the way they are. And she was able to write down in plain language how farming soils work. So explaining about the microorganisms that are in the soil that actually convert the soil from just being a pile of dirt to soil that is beneficial feed for your plants. And so that comes with, there's quite a few businesses now, lots of them, that sell the starter kits for it. It comes in either powder form or it comes in bottled form, and you buy that. That's called your starter kit. And you add to it things like, well, we do perhaps fish meal and kelp meal, and molasses is a good thing to add. I put a little sea salt in there, and I make up what's called a stock solution. That with the EM for your plants, and a product called Myke, MYKE, for the roots of trees and shrubs and things like that. You make up according to what you're feeding, what kind of plants you're feeding, and you feed your soil. It's really like a boost. Those things are already there, but they may be there in fairly small amounts because your soil needs attention. If your soil is in splendid condition, you don't have to use anything because the microorganisms are going to be there, and you just have to go ahead. And so soil that's kept in really good condition probably doesn't need any kind of additional compost tea. It's going to be fine on its own. But often it can be used early in the season when the soil has been sleeping all winter and it's wet and cold and it's not invigorated. And so just as the soil begins to turn from winter cold wet soil into spring soil, you can kind of give your soil a boost by adding compost tea to it. The thing that people probably don't understand about compost tea, and I didn't understand when I first used it, is that it requires that there be plant roots there, because it's the combination of the plant roots needing to pull nutrition out of the soil that stimulates the whole process to work. So just putting it on the soil with no roots there is just like putting anything else on the soil. It's not going to do any good, but it needs that symbiotic relationship between the plants and the properties of the soil to make it work. What we try to do is we try to feed the like plants that are there for half a year or a year or more, give them one good feeding late in the winter when they're just beginning to grow. That would be blueberries or raspberries or anything like that. Any of your fruit plants or trees. And then we water with a very weak solution of compost tea when we are seeding and transplanting. And then if we're a farm like ours, when we're harvesting a lot, we harvest a lot of food off this farm, and it's pretty persistent. We're always at it, and so if you don't refeed those plants, the plants start to suffer from lack of attention and lack of food. So one of the things that you can do is you can top dress them with the sea soil or some kind of alfalfa fertilizer or something like that. You can also just use compost tea and give them a good feed of compost tea. That would be a little stronger solution. We do that in a barrel and we add additional elements to that, like more alfalfa and more fish, liquid fish and things of that nature. So it would be a much richer food than the light one which we'd use for seeds and transplants.